All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have another review video for you today. This one's going to be Dungeon Lords, which is the video game that inspired me to even make a YouTube channel to begin with. So I'll describe it a little bit, and then I'll briefly describe what the layout of the reviews moving forward is. Since I'm an attorney in real life, that's my day job. And so I'm going to be presenting this in a silly way, almost as if it was a court case where someone's trying to prove a case up against the game. So we'll see how it works. Dungeon Lords itself is a very interesting story. It was released in 2005 originally, developed by Heuristic Park, and then I believe it was published by Dreamcatcher. And as a lot of games tend to be, it was released without being done. And so they had to re-release it in 2006, calling it the Collector's Edition. And then somehow, some way, this game has been remade 2 other times after being acquired by Nordic Game. So it was released in 2012 with the Dungeon Lords 2012 edition, and then in 2015 with Dungeon Lords Steam Edition, which is what we played. And so without any further ado, let's get into the case. Dungeon Lords is an action RPG where you play as a nameless, prophesied warrior who's here to save the world. What from? Hard to tell. You show up in a town called Fargrove where Lord Davonmore is pissed because his daughter ran away. Now, his daughter ran away because Lord Davonmore jailed her lover, except they did that on purpose because they were trying to trick the bad guy, Lord Barrowgrim, into giving up his location or something so they could infiltrate his army and spy on him and get a bunch of secrets. A lot of twists like that. And then there's also a bad wizard who wants to make a communion with a demon, and so he fights a good wizard named Galdrin, and Galdrin's actually not dead. He's actually alive, and he makes you go get these 5 relics of power, which are used to destroy the demon, but the bad wizard thinks he can use them, and he can't, and so he dies, and that's kind of it. It's really kind of a messy story. There's 2 major stories that are kind of going on at the same time. You have the whole thing with Lord Davonmore and his daughter, and their fight with Lord Barrowgrim, and then on the backhand you have this wizard fight going on between Galdrin, the good wizard, and the bad wizard, whose name I can't remember right now. But you get these relics. They don't really do much in the game. You can't really use them until the very end, but that's kind of it. I mean, it's a really weird story to follow. It's got some decent twists, but that's about it. Honestly, I think Dungeon Lords has a pretty decent amount of stuff going for it. To start off with, the class system and the structure of the classes in this game is really not that bad. There's quite a handful to choose from, and they're all very dynamic and I don't want to say unique, because at the end of the day, combat is going to feel pretty similar spread across the classes, but you have a wide range of choices. For example, I wanted to play a dual-wield melee class, so I needed to pick a samurai. You're able to pick 2 base classes, 2 second-tier classes, and then 1 third-tier class. Now, the third-tier class has to be available based on the combination of your first and second tier. And there are even classes that are only available to female characters as well, so fairly in-depth. I also think that the spell system is pretty detailed too, although I really have not been able to explore the spellcasting system because the 2 times that I've played through this game, I did not play a spellcaster either time, which is a mistake, which is something that if I were to ever play this game again, I would do because of something we're going to talk about later. Frankly, I also think that the story, as convoluted as it is kind of decent. There are some decent twists. Indecent of enough twist for a game for being what it is from 2005. And lastly, I think that the game is just fun to play. I think that the combat is fine. I think that the game runs smooth enough. I think it only crashed on me twice. So all in all, it runs fine, it plays well enough, and I frankly enjoy playing it. And last of all, probably the best best part about this game. It has one of the very best pieces of dialogue from any video game that I have ever played, and it's this right here.
I lied. I don't really have a cup of immortality.
Now, Dungeon Lords is not without its faults. It's a rough game. It is much more playable in the 2012 or the Steam Edition versions. I have played on the Collector's Edition version, which is certainly better than the original version. The original version is nearly unplayable. It was released in an incredibly unplayable state. I remember stopping playing because I got my character stuck at one point. It was in the catacombs underneath the Temple of Cersei in Fargrove. I went into a jail cell and accidentally triggered the switch as I was going in, and the door closed, and there was no mechanic to get you out of that door once you were inside. Although I did enjoy some of the twists, the story itself is really convoluted. It's kind of hard to tell whether the main plot of the story is the whole Lord Davonmore and Fargrove situation, or it's the Volgar and Galdrin wizard situation with the ancient artifacts, and then at the very end you're just sort of surprised with a demon, which really is not addressed that well early on or pretty much anywhere throughout the game. So the story is a bit hard to follow. You don't really understand what the artifacts themselves do or what their purpose serves, and they don't really explain that to you because you never get a chance to use them except for the very last fight. Frankly, I did not like the amount of random encounters and the amount of monsters that would be spawned with them. Now, this is truly only a problem at the beginning of the game. Once you keep going and you get your character very strong, the game becomes trivial no matter what you do. So there's really no difficulty in the game, and it really does not matter what class you choose to play. The game is going to be easy no matter what, once you build your character up and once you get him strong. Then there's the coughing mechanic, or the paralyze mechanic, or the sleep mechanic, or whatever it is that's going to make you lose control of your character. It's not fun. It's just not fun. You will lose control of your character an inordinate amount of times in this game. Every fight. The cough mechanic is by far the worst one because there's lots of spam that makes you cough, especially if you're fighting multiple monsters that are going to make you cough. Now you can cheese this because it is an old game and it is abusable by just opening up the escape menu and letting it ride its course, but that gets really tedious when you're doing it over and over and over and over again in a fight, which is why I think at the end I do need to recommend that you play some sort of spellcasting class, because there are just so many monsters in this game that will make you lose control of your character that it's not really that worth playing melee. And the very worst thing about this game is the fucking Shadow Ruins. The Shadow Ruins are atrocious. I would pick the Water Temple in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time every single day over the Shadow Temple. You go into the Shadow Temple and you constantly have to find yourself on these platforms with these portals that teleport you around. And you have to go in a specific direction. Like, you'll land on a platform and you don't have a mini-map for this, so you don't get to see where you are. You can just see that on the mini-map your character is either facing north, east, south, or west. And you have to go like north, north, east, west, east, and that's how you progress to the next level. But there is nothing there to indicate that to you. Nothing at all. So if you were doing this purely by trial and error, I would have quit the game. To me, it's like the fishing up the Triforce pieces in Wind Waker. Like, you just need a map to do it, otherwise the game becomes way too tedious and it's just not fun at all. This was the most frustrating part. It was awful to go through. It's probably what's going to make me never play the game again, because even with a guide, it was frustrating as all hell. All of that being said, I absolutely am finding in favor of Dungeon Lords. This game is just fun. It is, in my opinion, the poster child of a great bad video game. It has just enough to make it good. There's just enough to keep you playing, especially if you're playing the 2012 or the Steam Edition. It's actually truly not that bad of a game, especially if you like dumb stories and dumb mechanics. You can play through it, you can have fun, and my favorite part about this game is my brother has always made fun of me for liking it, even way back in 2005 when I actually got the original Dungeon Lords, just because I looked at the box art and thought it was cool. He's just constantly ridiculed me for playing a terrible game. And my favorite thing is Christmas, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I asked him to buy me Dungeon Lords Steam Edition just so he would spend money on the game. I have to recommend the game. It's terrible, but it's great for what it is. And although I've only got maybe like 8 or 10 of you that watch my videos, I really don't know exactly what I want to play next. So if you guys have a game that is bad, let me know. Let me know what it is. I'm trying to keep the games under 20-30 hours. That way I can typically, break it down to a 5 or 6 part series. But, leave a comment. Let me know what I should play. I'll take it into consideration and possibly do that. I'll see y'all next time.